at 10, targeting criminals or legal owners.
And nobody wants firearms in the hands of people that shouldn't have them. We don't feel that this legislation addresses criminality.
How a new law makes it harder to get guns in Minnesota. Plus,
a little more comfortable tomorrow, and I'll show you who has the best chance of a good soaking this weekend.
Then a teenager's freedom stolen.
I call him my Superman, so that was our Supermobile.
A mother's plea to get her son's lifeline back. And buzz off. A good question about what's really dropping from Mosquito helicopters.
This is WCCO News, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
Sheets of heavy rain blowing across highways and lots of lightning as a late night storm moves through the metro. And this is a live look at Robert Street in West St. Paul now, where the downpours are making for slow going out there. Thanks for joining us tonight. Pop-up storms are rolling across the Twin Cities, bringing heavy rain to some towns. We want to get right to Next Weather Chief Meteorologist Chris Schaefer. Chris?
Aaron, it's still warm and humid out there, and this is a very similar situation to what played out yesterday with non-severe thunderstorms that are more notorious for dumping heavy rain in the same areas as yesterday. St. Anthony, Roseville, another downpour for you that has now moved on as it pushes to the south. And here's a look at the rain that has fallen. Shoreview, an impressive rain total. Fridley, Coon Rapids, and you can see how isolated in nature the shower activity is. That's it. The rest of the state is dry. Here's some foreshadowing for you. I'll let you know when this will be happening over the weekend, but much more widespread.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Well, tonight, a new rule aims to make our neighborhoods safer from the gun violence epidemic. Many private gun sales in Minnesota now require a background check, just like if you went to the store. So buyers need certain permits to get a handgun or assault-style weapon. WCCO's Caroline Cummings explains what gun owners and hunters need to know.
And so all of these firearms would be subject to the new law.
Kevin Vick is the president of Stock and Barrel Gun Clubs. He says many of his members have questions about the universal background check law, the change impacting private transfers of many firearms, whether that's a sale, gift, or loan.
Right now, the bill covers handguns and it covers military-style assault weapons. And so they're trying to make sure that they understand what's covered, what isn't covered.
There are exceptions for sharing firearms in your immediate family or people you're hunting with. But for all other transfers, you'll need to get a permit, which requires a background check. Then both the seller and buyer can either fill out paperwork making a record of the transfer themselves that they'll have to keep for a decade, or they can go to a federally licensed gun dealer like Stock and Barrel, and they'll handle the documents for them.
They're just very interested in making sure that they stay within the law.
Vic and other opponents of the move say the changes add hurdles for law-abiding gun owners, but supporters cheer a long-sought victory.
We want to make sure that everybody has an obligation to verify the person they give the gun to, they're actually allowed to have it.
DFL Representative Dave Pinto says the stricter rules are popular among Minnesotans and common sense.
Responsible gun owners right now wouldn't think of handing over their gun to somebody without knowing that they're legally allowed to have it. We want to have that expectation of all gun owners.
Caroline Cummings, WCCO News.
The new rules don't apply to shotguns or hunting rifles. Meanwhile, a red flag law that can temporarily take guns from people deemed a danger takes effect next year. We are learning new details about the trooper who shot and killed a driver on Interstate 94. The BCA today identified him as Trooper Ryan Londrigan. He had less than 2 years in law enforcement. Investigators say he pulled up to help another trooper who had stopped Ricky Cobb II in Minneapolis early Monday morning. The BCA says they tried to remove him from the car because he refused to get out. Londrigan fired his gun. He and a fellow trooper fell to the ground. You can see as Cobb drove away. They went to the hospital with minor injuries. The BCA says they found a gun in Cobb's back seat. He is never seen holding it, though. Cobb was wanted for violating an order for protection. All three troopers are on leave, and the Hennepin County attorney will consider any possible criminal charges. New video of a dangerous close call. Watch this driver clip a construction barrel which hits a road worker. A driver hits several more barrels before finally stopping. This happened on Highway 36 in Oakdale tonight. Eventually, that driver gets back in the car and takes off. The worker went to the hospital and is expected to survive. Troopers are still trying to find that driver. Minnesota's first marijuana dispensary is pulling the plug on online sales following high demand for recreational pot. Native Care on the Red Lake Reservation started selling to customers 2 days ago. The dispensary says it's now working to fill an overwhelming number of online orders. Most stores can't legally sell weed until 2025 when they get licensed by the state. Well, the former president of the United States says he is not guilty of plotting to overturn an election he lost. Today, Donald Trump faced a judge over charges surrounding the 2020 election and the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Crowds met the former president's motorcade outside a D.C. courtroom this afternoon. The Republican is accused of trying to subvert the will of voters and block the certification of Democratic President Joe Biden. His attorneys argue that the Justice Department is criminalizing free speech. The government says Trump knowingly lied to stay in power. The 2024 GOP frontrunner also faces criminal charges over campaign hush money paid to an adult actress and allegations that he mishandled top secret documents in a cover-up. Trump could still face election fraud charges in Georgia later this month. Well, dozens of Minnesotans are heading to Canada to help contain the historic wildfire season, which, of course, is affecting us here, too. Tonight, part 4 of our Next Weather Investigates series, Summer of Smoke, and a behind-the-scenes look at the record response to the crisis with Jonah Kaplan.
Canada cannot do this alone. No country can. More than 5,000 wildfires raging in 3 months, a combined 30 million acres burned. That's more than half the size of Minnesota. WCCO News spending several days in Canada getting access to the hub of firefighting operations in Winnipeg.
It's persistent northwest flow of the smoke.
And a storm prediction center forecasting smoke clouds.
It was a great experience working alongside them.
These Minnesotans just came back from spending 2 weeks on the front lines. Darren Bundy, Lori Barrow, and Steve Savinsky are foresters with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources.
We started anywhere between 6:30 and 7 in the morning, and I don't think I went to bed in the tent until 23:30 most nights, so long days, 16-hour days.
I've never seen anything with that much momentum. And knowing that I was working alongside my colleagues in a newer-ish place definitely got my adrenaline up, definitely made us keep our head on a swivel and look out for one another.
The main reason why we're there is, that area they're under distress. They need some help, so you're there to help our fellow neighbors to the north.
They were dropped by helicopter into Grand Rapids, Manitoba. That's almost 5 hours north of Winnipeg. The crew sharing with us pictures and videos from the scene against a massive inferno that had a footprint that's grown to twice the size of the city of Minneapolis. After more than a month, firefighters just this week making huge progress. The wildfire no longer out of control. Another crew in Ontario giving us a pilot's view from inside one of 4 Minnesota AT-802 water bomber aircraft. They each skim and drop about 800 gallons of water per pass.
So they use the aircraft to help slow the rate of spread and try to keep the fire as small as possible. This one was making some big runs every day whenever the weather was warm and dry. And the boots on the ground are actually what put the fire out.
I'm not a helicopter crew member or a helicopter manager, so that was, pretty new for me.
What about the heights?
It didn't bother me.
We feel, I think I do personally, feel a sense of responsibility and ownership to do my smallest part, even if that's just putting out a little bit of the line.
A third DNR crew is now in the rotation on its way to Manitoba this week. This is all part of what's called the Great Lakes Compact. It's a prior agreement between Great Lakes states like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ontario and Manitoba on the other side. Across the country, though, Americans from all 50 states are heading to Canada because it's not just states that are lending hands, it's the federal government as well.
Inside CIFC, the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Center, David Lee is the American liaison to Canada, the official representative for more than 2,100 U.S. firefighters, the largest American delegation ever.
I think a lot of it's manpower. We are bringing in they have brought in some of our incident management teams. We have smoke jumpers in British Columbia. They generally work in the most rugged terrain and some of the more intense portions of the fires.
Canadians and Americans working together, and they're not alone either. Also pitching in, crews from a dozen other countries around the globe, from Mexico to South Africa, Korea to Brazil.
You're building a fire line, but you're also building a bond.
Wildfires don't see political boundaries. It'll keep coming, so we got to keep working with one another.
You take a sense of pride in it, just to go put your nose to the grindstone and get after it and just help out the people that are in need.
A sense of pride shared back home. We're all in this together. Jonah Kaplan, WCCO News.
Something you may not know, for years, Canada has reciprocated firefighters and resources to battle wildfires, both here in Minnesota and out west. In 2021, 600 Canadians came to battle intense wildfires in the U.S. You can watch all of our original reporting from Canada on our website, WCCO.com. Coming up here, mosquito season, it can really bite. How crews keep the bugs at bay in Good Question. But first, a thief drove off with more than a mother's car. What her son desperately needs to make it to medical appointments. Next.
You're watching WCCO News, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
A pair of popular places to work up a sweat are closing. Today, YWCA Minneapolis announced it will close its downtown and uptown locations this fall. They say they'll try to sell those two buildings. The organization called it a difficult decision, but plans to put resources towards programs that target girls and racial disparities instead. 85 workers will lose their jobs. Both Ys will shut their doors on November 1st. Well, both a mother and her son with disabilities are struggling after a stunning steal. It's a sight that's all too common. A crook smashing and stealing a Hyundai. But that SUV was carrying something uncommon and costly. WCCO's David Schumann spoke to the family who's hoping for a miracle.
Someone in a hoodie went to work this weekend on Tamika Williams' SUV while she was shopping inside Cub Foods in South Minneapolis.
Pinged the window and slithered in like a snake.
The thief made off in her Hyundai just 45 seconds later.
It's like no moral to their little thinking.
What they didn't know, they also took the custom-equipped wheelchair that allows her son to live his life. Samaje has cerebral palsy and can't move or speak.
With that chair been missing all week. We sitting in the house not being able to even enjoy any outside time. I call him my Superman, so that was our supermobile.
Samaje is having spine surgery next week and needs his chair to get to and from appointments. Tamika feels desperate.
I even thought about going to Walmart and buying one of those big old wagons and supporting it with pillows just to get out this house. So I don't know. It's frustrating.
There is one good thing that happened. Tamika's car was found, mostly undamaged in North Minneapolis, but no chair.
Oh, it was more, let me dump it to joyride than anything. That's what bothered me.
The chair's distinct with Superman and Jordan logos, giving Tamika a sliver of hope it might find its way back to their family.
You can put it on the side of the road, let us come find it. You don't have to say who you are or nothing, just give me back that chair.
David Schumann, WCCO News.
And Tamika found a possible wheelchair donation in St. Cloud that she hopes to pick up this weekend. There's also an online fundraiser to help her. No arrests have been made. Well, it's been so dry this summer, there's a good chance that you haven't run into many mosquitoes, but that does not mean the Metropolitan Mosquito Control District isn't out looking for them. So how do they treat for mosquitoes? Good question. Heather Brown took one for the team in Dakota County.
This very muddy wetland. So I'd call this a swamp.
Yep.
Inside of Lebanon Hills Regional Park is Brian Feldhake's summer office.
You'd call it a breeding site.
Yep. Typically, we'll come out here with our dippers and see if we can find mosquito larvae. Right now, there isn't a whole lot in this one. Actually, there's a tiny little one right there.
Oh, yeah, I see it. He sends the larvae back to their lab in St. Paul to see if this kind of mosquito would bite.
And they will kind of give us the kind of red light or green light as far as should we treat it or not.
Brian makes this all look much easier than it is.
Sorry.
It's okay. Trying to save you.
Don't save me. Let me go.
Okay, back on track. so Brian can kill the mosquito babies before they become full-fledged bugs.
What is all this?
So this is a backpack applicator.
He's just one of 200 people who do this work across the metro all summer. Today, he's blowing out dry pellets called methoprene.
It interrupts their normal hormone process.
So the mosquito pupa never becomes an adult. It's a different treatment than the one that comes out of the helicopters. That's called BTI.
It's a soil bacteria that's naturally occurring.
And it's carried through dried up kernels of corn to take out mosquito larvae.
It basically gives them a fatal stomachache.
WCCO weather watcher Phyllis from Farmington.
Isn't it true, Phyllis?
Has seen mosquito control choppers near her house.
Is it unsafe to be outside when aerial spraying is underway for mosquitoes?
Does Phyllis have to go inside?
Nope. A lot of people think it's actually very entertaining to watch the pilot.
But we should clarify, you're not spraying a liquid material.
Nope.
Right?
Right. Just pellets that only interact with mosquitoes, not fish or plants or dogs or humans, even those with a bit of a bruised ego.
And I just want to thank you for not belly laughing at me.
Heather Brown, WCCO.
I've been there.
News.
That for sure got in the waders.
Oh, she's got mosquitoes in her back pockets right now that were larvae in that story.
I was just in a wetland for a story. They're no joke. They're pretty gross. Even I didn't fall in, but I had the creepy crawlies for 3 days.
I think we should just send a drone.
We should check on her.
Yeah, for sure.
That's how they're doing.
Yeah, well, we do have some heavy rain falling again, just like we did last night. This is a little later, nothing severe, but some heavy downpours. Mosquito breeding grounds. Yeah, let's zoom in a little closer to show you. Yesterday, St. Anthony, Roseville, reports of over an inch of rainfall. Guess what? You guys got hit again. You see the rise of the storms, and now they're decaying and pretty much shrinking down to nothing. I looked for hail. It's there, but it's very, very small. The estimate's not anything concerning, but what is the rain estimates over half an inch of rainfall, again, in the same areas as yesterday. The line is just a little more widespread. I mean a little. Take a look at it. Just kind of goes across parts of the Twin Cities. The rest of the state is dry, and we will remain dry into the night tonight. Temperatures have cooled back a bit, 76, still pretty warm in St. Cloud where it's 81 degrees. And yes, it's still humid out there. Dew points have been up and down. They were up at 70 earlier today. They dropped back to the upper 50s early this evening, and now they've crept back up to the mid 60s. So another tough night of sleeping without the air conditioning. Tomorrow will be a little cooler up in northern Minnesota for you folks heading to the cabin, say in Grand Rapids. A nicer day if you're stretching it out Friday through Sunday. Central Minnesota will be slightly cooler than it was today. We did hit 95. Today was our second warmest day so far this year. I think we get close to 90, so still a very summer-like day and still a bit humid, just not as much as it was earlier today. Southern Minnesota, same vibe. We're talking about temperatures in the 80s, anywhere from 84 in St. James to 88 in Mankato. Now, rain chances. The models are all over the board with this system. The timing has been consistent. I'll show you that. It still looks like the southern part of the state has the best chance of picking up rain. We're kind of in that tweener area, and it's a little uncertain to the north. Earlier, I was showing you model data that was much more widespread. I'm going to show you one on the low end this time. The timing is very consistent with the models. This is afternoon on Saturday, about 2:15, just off to the west. Making its way toward the Twin Cities before midnight. This particular model, it's not getting here. It's keeping the moisture to the south. We will continue to watch more and more model runs as soon as we see some consistency. We will share that with you. I've been sharing you inconsistency. I just want you prepared for what's coming up next. Your big weekend plans, and we'll keep you dialed in. So tomorrow is still hot and humid, just not as bad as today. Saturday looks dry for the most part in the metro. It's still Saturday night into Sunday. We have the uncertainty with that rain. As soon as it looks more certain, we will get you all squared away. This is certain. Much cooler weather coming our way into next week. We're talking about highs below average for a change, guys.
That looks pretty nice. Okay, Maxie, back from training camp. How'd you do?
It was so hot out there.
You made it.
You were right. It was 95 degrees. I'll say that. The Twins, though, they're in St. Louis. They needed a win. A long ball helps. And yes, the Vikings practiced for the fans at a jam-packed and heated up TCO Stadium. We were there next in sports.
And get your WCCO news whenever you want by streaming CBS News Minnesota through the CBS News app or on Pluto TV. Tough road trip for the Twins.
Yes, so the question was, could they salvage something tonight?
Yes.
In St. Louis. They did.
Okay, great.
Twins needed a win just to avoid a disastrous road trip and salvage a 2-4 record in St. Louis tonight. Here's how you started. Ryan Jeffers, a 2-run home run. He's really contributed to this team this season behind the plate and with some power. Along those lines is Michael Taylor. With Byron Buxton not playing center field, he's played much. He duplicated what Jeffers did, a 2-run home run. Sometimes in baseball, you don't have to swing the bat to notch an RBI. This time, Taylor takes a walk with the bases loaded. Sonny Gray gets his first win since April. He was very good. The Twins did enough. They win tonight, 5-3, the final. The Twins made a move placing Joe Ryan on the injured list and calling up one-time Cy Young winner Dallas Keuchel from the Saints. He was pitcher of the month in July. Be very interesting to see if he can give this team the boost they need. The Vikings put on their annual practice under the lights where fans can gather at the big stadium for a glimpse. Eventually, TCO Stadium was standing room only. Just to watch a practice, Harrison Smith ran through the youth football gauntlet. The fans came with an occasional Skol chant. Owner Ziggy Wilf was there. We were not allowed to shoot the actual scrimmage piece of it, but you get the idea. The Vikings committed to center Garrett Bradbury by signing him to a new contract. Ren Clayton caught up with him today as training camp rolls on.
There's a comfort in Minnesota for Garrett Bradbury. And in year 2 of Kevin O'Connell's system, a greater comfort this training camp compared to last.
It's great. There's not as much, there's still some learning to do, but like I said, you're more comfortable with it. You know, same play caller, same position coach, same coordinator. So it's just kind of picking up where we left off and trying to make it better.
Garrett Bradbury didn't know if his 5th year in the NFL would be spent in Minnesota, but it will be. This offseason, he signed a 3-year deal with the Vikings. Minnesota has not committed to who their starting quarterback will be next year, but they know who will be snapping the ball.
It's still just going about it day by day, taking it one day at a time. You don't try and think about that other stuff when you're out here. So it's just trying to get better each day as an individual and as a group.
Bradbury's job and the offenses as a whole is easier because they have one of the best tackles in the NFL.
I know you guys are a whole group. How good, though, is Christian Darris as a player?
Yeah, he's a stud. We have so much confidence in him, whoever's on top of him. He's going to lock it down. And he's stepping up more as a leader this year, too, and really taking it seriously, knowing that he can be one of the best, if not the best, tackle in the league.
In Eagan, Ren Clayton, WCCO Sports.
Browns playing the New York Jets tonight in the Hall of Fame game. There was a lot of interest watching one quarterback perform. You know who we're talking about. That's right, Kellen Mond. The one-time Viking took some snaps. Don't know if Mike Zimmer was watching or not. He's now part of Kevin Stefanski's team. Took his team on a touchdown drive and leaves Vikings fans wondering, oh, what if? I know Chris Schaefer thinks about that every night. And of course, punchline to that is, you all thought it was going to be Aaron Rodgers, but he didn't play tonight.
That's how it goes sometimes.
But sometimes you get Kellen Mond, right? That's
exactly.
the way it goes, yeah.
Thanks, Maxie. We'll be right back. The rain passed through so fast. More coming this weekend, though.
Yeah, hopefully much more because we need it. Our drought conditions are so bad. Models differing on how much we'll see, but the timing seems to be set later Saturday, pushing into Sunday. Much more comfortable air to follow.
All right. Thanks, Chris, and thanks for joining us tonight. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert is next, and then you can keep watching local stories on our stream. That's CBS News Minnesota.